Hello, hello, and welcome again to the inaugural UOnline Open House. If you're just joining us, my name is Tori Brignolo, Senior Enrollment Advisor with the University of Miami's UOnline, and our next session here is going to be called Studying 100% Online. We do have the pleasure of having one of our graduates, Leroy Hollins II, with us here today, and he's going to talk a little bit about his experience as a student in the Master Program in Sport Administration. And we're also going to be joined by one of my fellow Senior Enrollment Advisors, Catherine Grimaldi, and I just want to thank both of you all for being here today. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and introduce our first guest, and it is Leroy Hollins II. Leroy joins us from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where he lives and works as a sport consultant. He is the founder and director of several nonprofits in his community, including the Louisiana Youth Sports Network, which is LYSN, and it's the largest youth football network, in Louisiana. It's now in its 19th year, and the organization partners with NFL teams, including the New Orleans Saints, as well as the NBA's New Orleans Pelicans. So super interesting there, and welcome, Leroy. We appreciate you being here today, and Catherine as well. Thank you so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. So
Thank you.
definitely want to go ahead and get started here. Would love to hear from Leroy, get some insight on his experience as a UOnline student and ultimately a graduate, and definitely want to jump into a few questions for you here, Leroy.
All right.
Leroy, let me give you a chance before we jump into some questions. If you'd like to say a few things and introduce yourself as well, I know it'd be great to kind of hear from you. Thank you.
Again, like Tori said, my name is Leroy Hollins II. I've been working uh, in the nonprofit world, sports for 20 years now. As you mentioned, my Louisiana Youth Football is a program in our Louisiana Youth Sports Network, which is the largest in our state. We're in the top five in the Gulf South, and we're in the top 10 in the country. We also work with Major League Baseball. We have a Louisiana Youth Baseball program that works with Major League Baseball. So we're a part of the RBI program, which is Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities program. We've had the pleasure of actually being involved with kids all across the country in all different sports. Some of our graduates is Darius Geis with the Washington Redskins, Lael Collins with the Dallas Cowboys. We have Dylan Moses, who's playing with Alabama right now. Several LSU Tigers, because we're based out of Baton Rouge. But it's been a joyful ride for me, and being a part of the University of Miami has really given me even more insight on how to better serve my communities and my region.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leroy. It's greatly appreciated. So I definitely want to jump into a few questions with you here, and we'll start off with our first one, which is pretty simple. Just, can you describe your experience here as a U Online student?
It was no different from my experience I graduated from Southern University with my bachelor's. I went to LSU for some graduate studies. A lot of people don't realize that studying online is just like you're actually on campus. You have access to the professors just like you would have if you were actually on campus. The great thing that it gives you is the flexibility of your schedule. And that's what I really needed at this stage in my life and this stage in my career, was to actually have that flexibility to be able to read and study at any given time. I knew there were set assignments, set coursework that I had to do, but being able to do it at a pace that I can work was really the most advantageous thing that I had, being an online student, being with the University of Miami. And again, I wanted to study sports administration, so there's no other place like the University of Miami to study sports. It runs the gambit of it from a team that was down below under to a team that rose to out of the ashes and became a great sports program. So that was one of the biggest draws for me, was that I knew the University of Miami Sports Administration Department had experienced everything with, because the athletic department had experienced everything.
Gotcha. Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for the answer there. Appreciate it. So I do want to ask you another question here, Leroy. I mean, and I think this is a question that a lot of, probably our participants and people considering an online education, often come across, especially, you had touched on flexibility and things of that nature. So how did you balance your time, to make sure that you could fit this course work along with your full-time job, family, volunteer commitments? I mean, what was your sort of process of finding the time to make this work for you?
It was tough. It was really tough because, as you mentioned, I was doing a lot of things. I had a full-time job, the actual nonprofit commitments that I had. It created a situation where I had to find balance. If I didn't, I wouldn't have any kind of success in the program. So I had to carve out times within the week to say, okay, I know I'm going to commit to reading on this time. I know I'm going to commit to writing my papers on this time, or I know I'm going to commit to just studying with my classmates, doing some interaction. So time management in an online program is more valuable almost, and understanding the time management side of it is almost more valuable than the course itself, because you learn how to pace yourself, and that the time management that you create with being in the program transfers over to the real world, because now that same time management schedule that I use for studying, I'm using it now to better my programs, to better my job life, and really, because I've been doing so much, to better my family life, to give time to be with my family. So the same way I learned to cut out time for studying, I now use it to spend time with my family, my granddaughter. I have a granddaughter, so uh, running around with a 2-year-old is nothing now, because I've created that time management schedule, and I know, okay, this time here has to be set aside for her because she wants attention. In the same way that my studies needed attention to be successful in the program.
Absolutely. I mean, couldn't have said it better myself. You know, sometimes you got to cut out those Netflix hours at nighttime, right?
Yeah.
Be able to dedicate some time to your studies. But I mean, no, definitely some great insight there. You know, certainly appreciate it, and it's always great to hear from a graduate. You know, especially somebody like yourself that's involved in so many different things that show that it's possible to do this, right? I mean, you just have to find that balance in your life, and you really have to be motivated to make it work. So, definitely appreciate the comments on that. So I have another question here for you as well, Leroy. Just would like to kind of again just pick your brain a little bit and see what it was like in regards to your relationship with the faculty. Again, kind of referring back to our earlier session with online. Oftentimes I think people get the notion that they may be disconnected. So I'd like to hear, sort of your insight on what your relationship was like with faculty as well as your fellow students. And with that being said, I mean, did you feel that you had a support system? Did you feel like you were able to build connections despite being an online student?
It's ironic. I've talked more, as I mentioned, I received my bachelor's degree from Southern University. It's ironic that I talk more with the people in my class with online than I talk to my fellow classmates at Southern University, where I went to class every day. I basically went to class, didn't interact with anybody. I went to the professors at the set time that they gave you, and this is at the actual on class. I mean, walking in class, seeing the people. I didn't interact with them, but with the U of M, the online program, I met a group of people in our first class that we spent more time together online talking. I talked to a lot of them in person as well. We found ways to meet up in person as well. And it created a bond because they were going through the same thing. They had to create that same time management schedule. So there were people in our classroom that were in Washington, D.C. There were people in our classroom that were in Seattle, Washington. So the time frames were totally different. So we learned to be able to talk to each other at 12 midnight Central Time or 8 a.m. Pacific Time or 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we became a family. We joined a group me message group, and then we started talking, and we related to each other, not just in the classroom, but to gain experience and gain information from each other's experience, because all of us came from different backgrounds. And because of the way the classes are structured, it kind of curves you to that, because you're going to do group projects. You're going to be working with each other in small groups, large groups. You're also going to be working with each other with just general projects, just to see what are you thinking about, or what the next classmate is thinking about. And as far as my professors, they were wonderful. I've never had that much exposure to a professor. Again, I attended a school for my bachelor's degree that was actually for me walking on campus, me talking to the professors. The interaction with the professors was only in that class time frame. And then they gave you the course hours that you can come talk to them. With my experience with U of M staff members, I could talk to them at any given time. It wasn't just a set amount of hours. If you had a question, they made themselves available to you. And the pleasure that I really gained out of it is when I walked on campus, because I did come to the campus a couple times. They embraced me as if I was in classroom with them every day. They hugged me, they talked to me, they made me feel like it was a family. And that's when I found out that the UMM program was really meant for me. My first visit, and all my professors talked to me and knew me like they had just saw me yesterday. And it was an, oh yeah, how was the class? How was this class was? And they were asking me about different classes I was taking and how I was feeling about their comfort, my comfort in the classes, and they cared about me. They worried about my concern as far as being a student, and I wasn't just a number, and I wasn't just a actual just a student enrolled in a class. I was their student to teach and learn from them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I think what you said right there is massively important, right? I mean, you want a sense of community, although that you may not live in Miami, but I mean,
Yeah.
check out yourself right now. You got your UM hat on, you got your UM shirt on. I mean, the community is everywhere. And I think Leroy is a perfect example of that, that you don't have to be in state and you can still take full advantage of the opportunities and, the connections that you can build here. And, I applaud you for doing that as well. And I think, if anyone that's on here listening, if there's one thing that you get out of it, is definitely that. I mean, as an online student, make it a point to be connected with the university. We're going to do it as well on our end here, but at the end of the day, it's definitely still up to the student to make sure that they want that connection and to
Yeah.
seek out and build it alongside of us offering those opportunities. So I definitely appreciate it, and thank you so much. For answering these questions here. So I do want to, change gears a little bit and, move on over to our fellow senior enrollment advisor, Catherine. She is on the line with us. I want to give her just a quick opportunity to just kind of introduce herself. We do have a few questions for Catherine as well, but Leroy, please, by all means, feel free to chime in. I think that you can also provide some excellent insight here. So let
Okay.
me pass on over to Catherine and give her a chance to kind of just introduce herself. I'll give you a little background on her, and we can go ahead and dive into a few more questions here. So, Catherine?
Sure. So my name is Catherine Grimaldi. I am an enrollment advisor here, and I do work with with you all as you are entering the process on getting through the application. These initial questions on, maybe you're deciding between two programs and you're not quite sure. So I am assisting you through all of that, as your support, as your first point of contact, and leading you on the path to, as you can see, being a fantastic graduate of UM, just like Leroy here. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine. Appreciate it. So, Catherine, I actually have a couple questions again, as I mentioned, for you. And again, Leroy, please feel free to chime in if you have something to add. We'd love to hear your perspective.
Well, I
First
do
and
want to add.
foremost,
I do want to add that
yeah,
the fact that
please
my
do, please do. I know you've got a lot of good information on over there, so
yeah, no,
don't worry about that.
my advisor is the reason why I'm in the program. I stumbled across it. I was doing some research for I'm the IT director for the Louisiana Racing Commission, and I was doing some research for my executive director and just ran across an ad and clicked on the ad and called up and just asked two questions. 2 days later, I was enrolled in the University of Miami. I don't know how that, but it was just so easy. My advisor took my information, told me, relax, don't worry about it. We're going to take care of everything. Before you know it, I was enrolled and I was a student. At the end of the week, and that was on a Monday. On that Wednesday, he contacted me back and said everything was good. On that Friday, I was questioning, wait, I'm in school. I'm in graduate school. But the advisor was so great with the process. And I'd always been worried about graduate, worried about how I was going to pay for it, worried about how I was going to do it because of the time, worried because I had graduated from my bachelor's degree was in 92. So 25 years later, I'm considering going back to school. Would I be able to do this? And the comfort level that my advisor gave, and you guys do a great job, and I know it's all the way across the board in the department. My advisor made me feel so comfortable about the situation that I was excited after I got off the phone talking to him, and I was like, I'm doing it for him. I have to do it for him because he believes in
Yeah.
me. He believed in me so much that I was like, this done deal. I'm in school. I'm ready to go. I went bought some books, everything I needed. I was ready to go. But no, the advisory department does a great job, like the professors as well. They make you feel comfortable. They walk you through everything. You don't have to worry about any kind of situations. They will take care of you, and they already know because they're so experienced at it. They know what you're feeling. They know what you're going through. They were able to answer some questions to me that I didn't know I needed to ask. So they really helped me out feel comfortable about getting into the program. And then my whole completion. When I came on campus, my advisory walked me through campus to get ready for graduation. So I felt like they walked me from the beginning of the process to the end of the process. And that was a great experience for me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I know that we definitely appreciate the kind words over on our end here, and that's our goal, really. I mean, we know this is a big life decision going to graduate school, right? So, us on the admissions as well as the academics, and really everyone involved with UOnline. I mean, that's our goal, is to make sure that if this is something that you decide to pursue, that it fits with your lifestyle. I mean, you got to go into graduate school with a positive mindset, and we try to set that expectation as much as possible early in the process, so and there's no surprises when you actually start school. So.
Yeah.
Thanks again. I definitely appreciate that. And it's actually a great transition for our first question for Catherine here, which is, a lot of people have questions about kind of how online works, and, is it similar to maybe how the campus works? Am I going to go on campus? What's the deal there? So, Catherine, can you elaborate a little bit on, the structure of UOnline's programs for our listeners?
Sure, absolutely. So while there are some overlaps, right, we have the same full-time faculty, as well, teaching our online programs, but the structure is just a bit different. You do have one class every 7 weeks, so it's awesome because you can focus all of your time and attention on that one course at that time. Yes, it will move a little bit quicker, but you are just focusing on that one at a time. Again, it's 7-week sessions. You will want to check with the program. You can check with us as advisors here as well. We have the information on our listed on our online brochure. But in terms of the number of courses, they do differ from program to program. For instance, with Leroy, they were 10 courses. Again, 7-week sessions separated by a week in between, which takes about 20 months to complete. Some of our shorter programs go down to, about 16 months, and 8 courses, and on the longer side, about 2 years or so. In terms of, again, the benefits of that, you're just focusing on one at a time. They're a little bit more accelerated. Yes, you are going all year, so this is important. It is a little bit different from campus. So what does that mean? You're always in a course. Yes, you do have a little bit of breather room. You have that week in between, just to regroup and pick it up again for the next 7 weeks. So you are in the summer. You have 3 enrollment semesters per year. So you have 2 courses every semester. That does include summer, as I mentioned to you. And in terms of course registration, we take care of all of that for you. We take that off your plate because, maybe remembering back to previous degrees, on campus, you're trying to rush around and figuring out what courses to register for and, your time block for that. So again, we take that off your plate. We do the registration for you and really make it a smooth process.
Awesome, thank you. So, and just as a summary for everyone, basically the semesters are broken down into 15 weeks. You take 2 7-week courses, 1 course at a time. So, as Catherine mentioned, it definitely provides that flexibility, so you're not balancing all these different subject areas. It's a little bit accelerated, absolutely, but at the end of the day, you do have 24/7 access to your online portal, and there's no restrictions as to when you can log in. So, it definitely leaves that as an open window, as you mentioned earlier, that Netflix time or whatever the case may be. Do a lot to your school schedule because you're unrestricted, to log into your classroom. So thank you, Catherine. Appreciate that. Leroy, I think this next question will be something that you can chime in on as well, since you've had the actual experience. But we'll start with Catherine and asking, what kind of assignments are students required to complete on a weekly basis? Now, I know it does vary from program to program, but what's about an ideal week for a student?
Sure, absolutely. So in terms of the assignments, and Leroy can attest to this, it will vary from weekly discussions that you're posting yourself. You're responding to your other classmates. It will be timed quizzes, timed tests. each week. You will also have research assignments, right? This is graduate work. So with that being said, we do have an APA requirement. So if you do need to brush up on that in advance, I do recommend that you do that to get ready for graduate school. But it will be a variation of assignments. There may even be group assignments. There may be presentations. So in addition to your writing assignments, there may be a presentation, verbal, if you will, component of that you're submitting. One thing to mention as well, yes, Tori mentioned you do have 24/7 online access to your course, but as you're going through some of this work independently, you also have faculty office hours. Those will be 1 hour each week, and yes, that is a live session. So you'll want to log in for that to be able to get all of your questions answered. And again, you also have a messaging system. So if you don't get your questions answered during that time, you can absolutely take advantage of contacting your faculty member on the side.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, no. Leroy, would you like to elaborate about your experience?
Yeah, as Catherine mentioned, the access to the professors, even though you had that 1 hour, the messaging system, the professors say, hey, contact me. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me anytime. And they're active online as well. So it's not just that they go check their email once a day or once a week to see your information. They're responding back to you right then and there. So if you have a question, it's really fast response. They're going to get back to you. If it's something that you need to specifically know, they're going to contact you. If it's something that would be a great question that you ask that would be helpful for the group, you will see it in a group message. And every professor at the beginning of each week is going to introduce what the subject is, who they are, what the subject is about. I didn't realize until I finished the program that I probably read about 10 whole textbooks based on the way that the program was broken down. Each week is a different subject that's based on the textbook. You have a reading assignment, which I usually mapped out. My Sundays would be my reading day that I would go out and try to read everything I needed for that week. And then the group discussions. All of the group discussions that we had to respond, as Catherine mentioned, we had to respond back to our classmates. That created that bond between classmates because then you started seeing how everybody else thinks. They started seeing how you thought. And then we started gaining experience from each other, learning about each other's background from those group discussions. So that was a great opportunity. And then towards the end of the week, you either had a written assignment or a quiz that you had to take, as Catherine mentioned. And those quizzes were based on your reading materials. So if you participated in the group discussions and your reading assignments, the quizzes were pretty easy. It wasn't something that was going to stress you out. You had to go crazy about. The material was there. The classes are set up for you to be successful. And it basically takes you to say, hey, I'm going to take on this responsibility of reading and then having the discussions, and you will be successful in the classes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that insight. Definitely appreciated by both Catherine and Leroy, and always great to hear again from a student who's been through it. So I do have another question here, and I think both of you can, probably elaborate a little bit on this. And just really pretty simple, any words of advice you have for students that are starting an online program, what would you recommend or what would you suggest for them that would help them be successful in doing an online graduate program? We can start with you, Catherine.
Sure, absolutely. Be prepared. As you're going through the process, ask the questions that you need to from us. We do have you go through a new student orientation, which does help you in that preparation. We guide you. But as a student, you really, as I mentioned, the 7-week sessions they can be a little bit quick. So keep up every week, every day. Stay motivated. Make sure to stay on top of all of your assignments. Keep an agenda, right? Look at your syllabus and mark down the deadlines and due dates and stay organized because you have a lot going on in your personal life as well. So making sure that you are leaving enough time for your coursework. Finding a quiet study time, study area in your house, making sure that you have that available to you. with further ado, I'll pass it over to Leroy.
Yeah, no, as Catherine mentioned, time management is the biggest thing. I mean, making sure that you have that schedule down, that you're going to dedicate some time to it. But my biggest thing was don't be afraid to reach out to the professors. They're there to help you. They want you to succeed. There's nobody in the program that wants you to fail. They want you to be successful. So feel free if you have any questions, any doubts, reach out to them. And I guarantee you, through your first couple of courses, you're going to start meeting classmates that's going to reach out to you, and you're going to reach out to them as well, and going to get information from them, going to discuss things from them, and it's going to give you an insight on how things should work as far as the class and how you should change maybe your schedule. My first class was one of the greatest. Professor Resnick did a great job of introducing us to the program. I mean, that course worked as for those people who had been out of school for a while. It helped us actually get reacclimated to studying and to getting that set time. It helped us with that time management schedule. So take advantage of your first course, because that's going to set you up on how you do the rest of the program. Your first course is going to be more of an introductory type course. So it gives you that ability to have those mistakes that you may make with your time management and say, hey, okay, if I do this a little different, it'll work out. And the professor, again, the professors are great. Utilize them. They are there for you. They want you to succeed. I can't say that enough, because they wanted me to be successful and I wanted to be successful. So we worked really good together as a team.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both Leroy and Catherine with providing some insight there. And something that you said, Leroy, I think is super important. Learn from one another, right? I mean, even though you're
Yeah.
an online student, you have to make it a point to kind of learn from all these different people with different backgrounds, and it certainly
Yeah.
makes it experience. So I definitely agree with you on that one. So we are getting close to the end of the session here, but I do want to be able to answer some of the questions that are coming in. So we'll start off with one that I've received from Amar. And he's asking about how about on a weekly basis about how many modules are you participating in. So I'll pass that on to Catherine. I think she can answer that pretty easily for you guys.
Each week, in terms of modules, you're not necessarily going through modules. I'm not sure if the better question is maybe how many assignments. So each week can vary, but on average, I would say about 3 to 4 assignments. Again, as I mentioned, it can include those weekly discussions. It can include, longer assignments. It can include quizzes and tests. It will vary as well, but I would say on average, you'll want to dedicate about 30 hours, at minimum. To your studies. So what that comes out to is really a few hours per day, right? Again, this is graduate school. You do have the flexibility of being an online student, but you do need to make sure and have that time. But just to reiterate your question, potentially about 3 to 5 assignments, depending.
I'd say it's about accurate, right, Leroy?
Yeah, because we pretty much, for a week for me, was we had a group discussion that was due on Tuesday. We had to actually comment back and forth with everybody by Thursday. On that Friday, you maybe had a paper that was due. And then on that Saturday, if you didn't have a paper due on that Friday, that Saturday, you would have either a quiz or a paper. And it depended on the class. And then there were some classes where we had group assignments where we worked on smaller things where we didn't have to do anything major for that week. We still had our group discussions because we wanted to talk about whatever subject we were talking for that week. And then that group assignment was due. So you had time to be able to work with your group as well throughout the week. But an average week and an average class was you had an assignment due on a Tuesday, a group discussion due on a Tuesday. You had to comment on everybody's discussion by that Thursday. And then you had a paper or a quiz at the end of the week, which was pretty good. So I really set aside about 2 hours a day, 2 to 3 hours a day, just working on different assignments. And Sunday, like I said, was big for my reading because it prepared me for the group discussions that week.
And one thing that I just want to add as well, is that before your class even starts, we do give you a few days to preview. We want you to take a look at your syllabus and see what's coming, be able to plan. So it's not that you're going to be going through a week, and then, the weeks ahead are going to be mysterious. You will know what's coming, so we encourage you to plan.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we are getting really, really close to the end of the session here, but I do want to answer at least one more question that comes in, and this one is from Florentino. Actually, he is a recent admit into one of our ED programs online, which is in Applied Learning Sciences. So he's asking, would this program carry the same significance and weight as a degree that would be completed in person? And I think we covered that over the last session, and definitely to reiterate, absolutely. I mean, the programs here have the same faculty, same accreditation. I mean, really the only difference that you can establish would be the fact that the delivery of the material is a little bit different. You're just not in person, but at the end of the day, the curriculum is same in nature, the same learning outcomes. So 100%, I think everyone here that would be attending a program online needs to be confident in knowing that you are going to graduate with the same degree as if you were a campus student here. So, your diploma looks no different. It's University of Miami, and absolutely, 100%, absolute same program online. Obviously different in structure, but same learning outcomes, same accreditation, same thing you would expect as being a campus student here.
No, we actually had the same assignments that are in class, because we were parallel to some classes, and when we had to turn something in, it was our professors would talk about what he was doing or what she was doing in class as well. So the assignments are the same. You're not getting any different information. It's not, even though you have to do it at a faster pace, we don't have the luxury of meeting in person, but you still had the same type of assignments, same type of curriculum. There's no difference. The expectations were the same from the professors as well. So it's no difference. And then the graduation, you walked in there, it was on campus. For those who had the advantage of being able to go to the graduation on campus, they didn't treat you as if you were different, that like online was over on this section here. You were just in the graduation because you were a University of Miami graduate, and they treated you that way.
Definitely. Well, thank you again so much for the insight, Leroy. It's greatly appreciated, as well as you, Catherine. Definitely love to hear from our advisors and our graduates. And, I think the message is consistent across the board. And it's great to know that our graduates are experiencing, kind of the same thing that we position, from our programs here. So always great to hear that. With that being said, this is actually going to bring us to the end of our session. So again, Leroy, I can't thank you enough for attending, taking some time out today and doing this with us, and Catherine as well. I know that we're all busy, so it's awesome to have you guys here, and I'm sure our listeners enjoyed it as well. So again, thank you so much. For those that are in the webinar session here, please stay with us for our next session, which is called Exploring the Online Classroom. It's going to start at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we're going to have another member of our enrollment team, TTE Pega. And she's actually going to walk us through what it's like to navigate the online learning platform. So for all those questions everyone has about how does online learning work, next session is definitely going to cover a lot of that. So we will include a link in the chat box for that as well. That way, for everyone who would like to access, it'll be nice and easy for you to get here back with us at 11. And as always, to find out more about our online graduate programs and admission, you can call that phone number listed there, the 800-411-2290. Or, of course, visit the website welcome.miami.edu/online. So thanks again for our participants, and thank you for all the listeners out there, and we hope that you all are having a wonderful day. Thank you, Leroy. Appreciate you. You have a great rest of your day, Leroy, and Catherine as well, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.